Salt. What's up? My name is Lex, also known as Savannah Soul. I make cool shit, yeah. So that's who I am.
What's up? I'm Aaron. You'll find out more about me as this podcast goes on.
I'm Bria, the curator at this point. Here presenting this shit to you and gonna be presenting much more shit to you, so
a lot has happened in 2018.
Yes.
Everyone's doing their end of the year lists. Everyone's doing their this is what happened. But before we get to all the good stuff that happened this year, there's a lot of stuff that happened that wasn't so great. There have been a lot of albums that have come out and that
with
have
so much
flat.
music, some of it had to be mediocre.
It's not just mediocre, right? I think a big thing that happened with a lot of disappointing albums in 2018 is that artists didn't grow in the way that you wanted or hoped for, right?
Yes.
Artists didn't grow in the way you've expected them to. And maybe the music was still all right, but they just didn't live up to the expectation of what they've already given out. And that, I think, was the toughest thing for me. I'm going to come out the gate with a hot take.
Oh, no. All right. Well, we're just leaping out the window.
I mean, hey,
here we go.
Everybody loves No Name.
Wow. This was not where I was expecting this
Everybody
to go.
loves No Name. But Room 25, compared to her last release, is nowhere near as good.
yeah.
It's nowhere near as good, and that's why it's disappointing. This is not to hit on No Name as a rapper or say that she, has lost a step or anything like that. It's that she didn't gain a step.
Right.
She stayed exactly where she was.
And she's somebody as an artist like that really needed to progress with each project. She needed to like have a progressive sound, I would say more of a new sound so she could grab like a new sweep of fans. Like she's an artist that still need those numbers to get a certain level of recognition or attention. And she's somebody that still needed to get that, and she didn't hit that mark with that. If anything, she went backwards.
I think that's fair because it's like when you're looking at a new artist or an album or an artist that only has a couple projects under her belt, like she had one up until this year.
One real project.
I think you can develop that cult following, but then people are looking at you for that next project to be like, okay, like are they gonna go big or are they gonna stay where they are? And like you guys said, Room 25, it didn't really propel her into gaining any new fans or really reaching a new set of ears. So it got lost in the shuffle, really.
Here's the other fundamental problem that I felt with the album, at least, and who am I to say, but the production far outstripped her rapping this time. So usually she's in sync, right? She's Felix? Is that his name? I can't pronounce it. He's got a dude on all of her songs. In any case.
Don't quote me. I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's Felix.
Call it.
It's Felix, something with a PH sound. Mm-hmm. But in any case, the point is, it was masterfully done. The production is amazing. And in the last album, it was very intertwined. This time, when the production outperforms you, it happens a lot. In a lot of these albums that we're going to talk about today, I feel like, where the production outperforms you as a rapper, your fans will listen to it, they'll be hyped, they'll get real excited, they'll be like, yeah, this is dope, and then they won't listen to it a week later. That's how you know the album's disappointing. When you've been waiting on somebody to drop something for like a year, 2 years, and then you listen to it, you get real hype, and then it goes mute for the rest of the year, what are you going to do?
Yeah, I mean, that's fair. That means it didn't hit like it was supposed to hit. And I mean, definitely in the state of music now, there's a lot of producers that are working harder than the rappers. But, just to go back to the No Name thing for a second, I think the other thing with No Name is because of the way she raps.
Yeah.
It's even
She
easier
a real live mumble rapper.
for her to get lost in the shuffle. Exactly, because she almost whispers and stuff. Like, she has a very, low...
She legitimately mumbles.
I just wrote
like
this
on
rap
tracks,
on my
yeah.
phone. And we
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think it's so her more than other artists, she super gets lost because her voice doesn't even have that vocal presence that we expect from most artists.
The thing is, she didn't give herself room in the soundscape to do that. What's so dope about Telephone is the beats on that, they were large and they were empty. And they let her voice sort of fill into the beats.
The space.
Yeah.
It had more space to it.
Space to it, right? But if you look at the album, Room 25, the beats are really strong. The production is really strong. I don't even hear her on them. And I'm just like, man. Oxnard?
Yes. I was going to say, staying on the topic of sophomore slum. Yeah.
Oxnard kind of sucked for kind of the same reason, but almost because he overdid it on every song.
Yeah, I was gonna say totally the opposite side of the spectrum. Like, okay, Anderson, we get it. You're trying to do a lot here.
Unlike Room 25, I think Oxnard was way more of a disappointment. Like that blow hurt way more than
because it goes back to like fan base, and there's at the end of the day, there's just more people checking for Anderson, and especially because it was Dre. Like you have one of the biggest like cosigns that you could have, like. Especially when you think of the last artist that Dre gave his cosign to was Kendrick.
Yes.
So, like, you just, the pressure.
Dre's record is impeccable. He got 50 M, Kendrick, like,
you think of the artists he's broke, so you're just like, okay, bet. Like, wow,
and up until this point, Anderson was up there too, though. Anderson was up there,
but here's the thing. Anderson's been weird for a long time. Anderson's been in this game for almost 10 years, been forming the same band for 10 years. This is not unlike him. So if you go back and you listen to his stuff, this is not unlike him. This is just Anderson being Anderson. So it's actually a case of, I think, his fans trying to put him someplace that he's not.
So
right, which is weird.
I think that's interesting because me and Bria have talked about this off the record, and she blames a lot of the album faults on Dr. Dre. Mm-hmm. But you're saying it's more Anderson.
So here's the thing about it. I blame Dre too, but I also think so. All right, my biggest gripe with the album is he has a beautiful beat that he wastes on a song about getting roadhead.
Yeah, right? And we talked about this.
But here's the thing. Anderson .Paak would love to rap. But he would love to rap about roadhead.
Getting head.
Yeah, he would love to. That's completely Anderson .Paak.
Yeah.
Like, if you've ever been to a show, he's a funny guy. He's a lively guy. I can totally see him writing a song about roadhead and being real happy.
I've seen his interviews, to get that. Like, he is funny. But I think, like, also...
He's a goofy,
you have to be,
like, it's
but
okay.
I think, like, he's the type of artist that, like, if you were to meet him and talk to him, he seems like a completely different person. Not completely different, but, like... His music persona is very different than him as a person.
Well, music is really an outlet for him, right?
Exactly. So, so you think, like, he's doing this whole, like, artist escape with his music, but then when you meet him, you're like, I didn't think you were the nigga that would be rapping about getting head.
I think that's a huge signifier of Anderson .Paak's career, but I don't think this album reflected that at all. I don't think this I don't think this album was that escape. It was more like, I am this nigga now, and very much was like, no, you're not.
Yeah, like it didn't give him that duality.
Like, who gave you these balls? Was it Dre? Like, because I understand that and I see that, but you're not there yet.
My other big problem is it didn't have a sound. Malibu had a very distinct
sound.
I can hear the bird. Like, I can hear that in my head.
You hear the waves.
Whenever I hear, like, the word Anderson .Paak, I can think of Malibu.
Yeah.
It was such a strongly themed album. I don't know what the hell this was about. Like, he got head, and then he went to a song about 10, so it's a very Cars. But then, like, 6 Summers, and then he decided to preach to us. So,
but
like...
Then the Blaxploitation song off the beginning of the album, like, off rip, I was like, I'm fucking with this.
This is gonna be good. And then it just not.
What, son? It was confusing.
He didn't stay thematically in the same space because he didn't want to, which is, every artist can do whatever they want.
But I think also that kind of goes back to even how he framed the album. Like, I'm about to pull up the little bio thing for it. Yeah, because, like, even in his bio, he talks about, like, how this is Oxnard and it's named after the city he grew up in SoCal, but, like...
What does that have to do with the album?
But, exactly, and that's the whole kill, because he talks about, like, yeah, this is why it's named that, but then, like, I knew I had to, like, leave and go to the bigger city, a.k.a. L.A., and so, like, even though it's called Oxnard, he doesn't really want the album to be about Oxnard at all, and he kind of wants it to be about LA, but it's still called Oxnard, so I think he gets trapped in this space where it ends up being about neither one of those things.
I think, though, the other thing is, like, he had a great song with, the great album with Knowledge, right? That collab album.
Yeah, that was the best.
That was one of the best things, like, he's made, and then Malibu, it's like, you can't hit on everything, right? Eventually, you're going to get to a point where people are going to disagree with what you're making.
Yeah, like something everyone's just not going to love. Like, that's an artist growth. But I think the problem is, like, when it feels more like a lack of growth.
I think this is, like, his, like, Common had Electric Circus when he was blue on the album cover. It was a real bad album. Great Mary J. Blige record on it.
Dang, it's...
Right, but I think this is his Electric Circus, right?
Yeah,
in a lot of ways.
We'll just be like it's gonna be like it's gonna be like Cole's what the fuck was his terrible ass freshman album that we always act like never happened? Where he's still sitting on the little bench, he's in the locker room. Dog, what is the name of it?
Sideline Story.
Sideline Story.
Yeah, Sideline Story. Oh my god! And it wasn't even that it's like it was actually pretty bad, yo.
It was pretty bad. Why do you like? Like, I liked it, but it was still pretty bad.
It wasn't him at all.
You're allowed to like bad albums. I feel like
That's fair.
I think people are like, yo, nah, it wasn't musically integrity and great. You can't like. Nah, you can like a bad album. It's fine. Like, we allowed to have our favorites that aren't like the greatest things in the world.
So, okay.
So those are my hot takes off.
If we're talking about bad albums that I enjoyed, I'm gonna put Future and Juice WRLD kind of in that pocket.
You enjoy it?
But y'all know I'm kind of like a little ratchet nigga at heart, so like.
I mean, yeah, there's a lot of ratchet music that came out. It didn't have to be Future and Juice WRLD.
But I like Future.
So what's interesting about Future and Juice WRLD is like Future is Juice WRLD after a couple bad decisions in life. Right? They're the same dude.
They are.
They cry about like not getting the girl. They do a lot of drugs.
Juice WRLD likes him and kind of like looks up to him, you know? Because
what a terrible role model.
Of course, like fucking like Future is like the like oh man, he's not. That's not the mentor you need in your life. Like
not at
you're
all.
going down a slippery slope. But
go ahead.
If you're Juice WRLD and this nigga's like 17, 18, 19, like he's young as shit, and you look at somebody like Future, like you think like. So think of how, like, you think of DS2, and we're like, wow,
yeah,
DS2.
we are.
Remember, that's an iconic moment. You know, like, you remember the summer DS2 came out, even if you don't fuck with Future. So I think, like, if you're Juice WRLD, and he's even younger than us, then think of how, like, that's motherfucking...
Well, the thing about...
That's the Black Album to him. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
don't go there. Please don't do that.
But if you're Juice WRLD, because, like, at the end of the day, like, you have to think... That's how these, like, 16-year-olds and all these young niggas are looking at these artists.
He will rap with, like, YB and Cordae for, like, an hour, right? Like, and
like
YB and Cordae is completely different path, right? So it's interesting how he coexists in a bunch of different spaces and stuff. But at the same time, my biggest problem with the Juice WRLD Future collab albums, they didn't take their time.
No, they didn't take their time at all. They literally even said they dropped it in like a week. And it sounds like it was dropped in a week. You know, like we're not gonna act like...
And that's not a good thing. Like, I don't know why that's a trend of like, let's make music like this and like get it out. It's not something you can do, but...
They trying to get these streams off. And that's the problem.
They're not even making money off these streams though.
They are.
No,
because even this album I think did 120.
They 120 units?
Yes. Exactly.
For both of them?
Yes.
That's not great.
120 if you're Juice WRLD?
This man came out this
year and he's selling 6 figures on his albums already.
But for Future, is that great?
Future, that's still decent, but this is the thing. If you're Future and this is the throwaway album and you still did more units than, more units than fucking J and B this year, fuck out of here. That's his throwaway.
Talk about disappointing collab albums.
But that's exactly. But you see what I'm saying? When Future's throwaway album is pushing more units than Jay-Z and Beyonce,
yeah,
bro.
I mean, that was a very disappointing album, though.
Very disappointing. I did not listen to that album again.
I tried to listen to it once, and here's the thing. Jay-Z and Beyonce have made some great music together.
Amazing music. Classics.
But they were not destined to make great music together this time. And honestly, it's Jay's fault.
Why do you put... Wait, it's Jay's fault?
A lot of people have been saying that.
I'll put it all on Jay. Listen, Jay came out with one of the verses of the year, right, recently.
What's free?
Yeah, easily one of the verses of the year. Not the verse, but he could not rap on that album.
I don't know. Hold up.
He could not rap out on the album.
I don't even think
because it wasn't built for him to rap.
To rap, well, because Beyonce was rapping on the thing so damn much. Where was he even supposed to rap?
But it wasn't built for him to rap. That's my point.
16 bar space, B said, "Yo, fuck it, I got this."
Because when I hear Jay rap on the album, I'm a little confused. I'm like, "What are you rapping about? Why are you rapping? This doesn't go with the song."
But I think like they got caught up in like trying to do this like reach thing where they were just like, "Oh, we have to bring the narrative full circle," and the album felt very forced in a way that neither one of their individual albums felt.
The aesthetic wasn't strong.
That's what I'm saying. It was just like. Because it goes back to, like, when Lemonade dropped and everyone was like, oh, my God, is this marketing or is this real life? And then so for them to come out and then be like, everything is love. We was never not good. You know? Or, like, we were not good, but we're great now, so it doesn't matter.
But here's the thing, Lex. The thing that missing from the Carters is, like, it's like they had the music video of the year easily, right?
Yeah.
Easily the music video of the year.
Like, these niggas in the Louvre.
But the rest of the album kind of had nothing.
Yeah.
Right? They had one really good visual. But the thing about Lemonade was it was completely visual, right?
Of course. Yeah. And because like people felt like it was personal in a way that Beyonce has never been personal in her music.
Which is a big deal.
You know, a huge deal. And
but it was very Beyonce. And 444 was very Jay.
Exactly.
This wasn't either of them.
That's what I'm saying. It was like if they were trying to find the compromise, they missed it. Like it
has no identity.
Didn't happen.
I don't even think they tried that hard. I just think they relied too much on like black love and that was
just being like, our narrative is important enough.
They didn't really talk about their love either much.
Right. No, that's what I'm saying. black love, like black love, like love, black love. You're welcome.
Yep.
And I think that's important. Yeah, because like ultimately, like it didn't have any depth to it, which they both had on their individual projects, and this one is completely lacking of. And I think you're right. They were just kind of like, this is our narrative, and people won't even pay attention to the narrative because we're back together. Like, and I feel that's how. I really feel like that's how it was looked at.
But like that's the thing. These albums were like, because there was so much music that released, I barely registered them. That's what made them disappointing, right?
It was not even.
It's not so much that the music was terrible and I'll remember it. I won't remember.
I just don't even remember it. Yeah, like I probably couldn't name you 3 songs off of that album right now. I couldn't do it.
We were thinking of songs. We were thinking of albums to put down that disappointed us, and I was having trouble because I was like, there were so many good albums this year. There was so much dope shit that came out. Even with like all the collabs, there were so many dope collabs that came out. Like Dave East and Styles P had a collab that I really enjoyed. Now maybe I'm like one of the only people that enjoyed that collab, but it was a great album. Other than that, like there was so many like Baby and Gunna had one of the albums of the year. I don't care what nobody says.
What?
Yo, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Why didn't you like it, Nana? Tell me why you didn't like it.
I didn't not like it.
Because I still play that.
I didn't not like it. You talk about rushed albums. I feel like that was a very rushed album too. And that's my biggest critique.
But the thing is about those 2 artists is that everything they've ever put out is rushed.
Like they don't take time with anything.
Yeah, so what does it matter? Like,
but I feel like
I still play Drip Too Hard. Like it's still a good song.
No, I mean like every time the joint comes on,
and you just see it exactly.
You know, like I'd definitely be bumping that joint. But
that's all it's supposed to do. It's not supposed to do anything else. Yeah. You got to take a work of art for what it is.
It doesn't. Right? Yeah, and I guess you're right. So it does its job. But
it's about managing expectations here, right? I'm not expecting like a work of art from Baby and Gunna. I'm expecting something I can listen to in the car.
Yeah.
And if I can't listen to you in the car, then I'm gonna be disappointed. Which brings me to your point about Mai Tai. Mm-hmm. Did you really like that album?
I did like Mai Tai. But even still, like
that sounded
I feel
like one long song to me.
But even to me, I feel like it does its job. It does its job. You have to look at the type of music that they make. They make these club bangers. They make these joints.
Because I played the shit out of the
R&B bitches,
like almost the entire,
you know what I mean?
The entire summer.
And like, so when I think my joint off of Mai Tai is Surrounded. That joint with Chris Brown. That joint goes. Like I think that song is.
Did Instagram love it? Because that was made for Instagram.
Oh, for sure. But and I look at that song and I think
got the pass, so she does
I think that joint is like the second. That was like one step away from being Or Nah. Oh my god.
Or Nah.
Surrounded to me was one step away from being Or Nah.
That was
but
a
Wiz's
huge
verse
song.
Wasn't strong enough on Surrounded. But Surrounded was that song is such a club. Like that is an amazing club banger. Like especially Chris. Anytime you get Chris on the hook, like that joint is just gonna like go crazy.
That's the one thing he's still good for.
That's the only, like, that's all I want him for.
He's always money for a Chris Brown hook if you really want it.
Exactly. And yeah, he'll give it, like, that little pop that's just, like, enough. Like, ooh. So, I mean, I think Mai Tai accomplished its job.
So, would you say Mai Tai's your collaborative album of the year?
Pick yours. Shit.
Yeah, go ahead, Lex.
If I were to pick mine, I'm going to be honest. I haven't given Fetty the attention it deserves yet. It's just,
that's unfortunate
it's
for
just
you.
Fetty's mine.
Because you missed, Fetty's also mine.
Because I already feel like both of y'all pick is probably Fetty.
Yeah, easily.
So
without a doubt.
But that's something I can't. I haven't sat with it long enough to even. So I can't. I feel like I can't pick a favorite because your favorite is something that I haven't even given enough.
No, that's fine.
Time to play.
What is your favorite? That's what we asking you. We're not asking you nothing else. Don't do all that shit. Yeah. What's your favorite?
I don't feel like, but that's the thing. I would not stand by Mai Tai and be like, this is my favorite collab album of the year. Like, I don't think I can.
You can only speak to what you listen to. I hate when people do
so
this
what?
shit.
Out of the collab albums that you have heard.
So just speak to what you listen to. It's fine. Like, the reason.
And these are just the suggestions that are in here if you have another one.
Nah, facts. But even that.
Go ahead, talk about Fetty, Bria. Why is Fetty so mad? Go ahead.
Okay. I really enjoyed Fetty for multiple reasons. I really think the project really did well at highlighting both of their strengths as individual artists and how well they're able to flow and kind of play off of each other when they're making music together. I still think Freddie overall washed Currency.
His voice is built for that kind of shit.
Oh my God. It's just, like Freddie washed Currency. But at the same time, like I wasn't mad. Like sometimes Freddie would take me into this like deep, like I'm really in the middle of the kitchen cooking type shit. And then Currency would like take me out to like take a break and hit the blunt. Like that's what Currency did. That's how he swept me. And like me being who I am, I needed that. Like, I needed that. And I really liked that dichotomy. Like, I really liked and it's like, I just really liked having both of their sounds make sense on so many songs that really didn't sound alike. Like, I mean...
That's the big thing for me, but it's the uniqueness of each
individual song. Yes, they were so... like, what? I was really, really impressed with the
Alchemist did a couple joints on that
He did.
album.
He did.
You know, he does it. He
did the whole thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Al.
And he does, like, an amazing work, obviously. I mean,
yes, like, it just made sense. And even just the promotion behind it, like, the little cute, like, videos and, like, just you could, like old music videos and stuff that Freddie was posting that you could just tell with his inspiration and references and stuff like that. It's just hilarious.
Is the balance between the two, like you were referencing before. Like, Spit It is very light. Like, if you like musically you listen to him, it's very light. It's up there in tone. Smooth. Yeah, Freddie is very deep and gravelly, and like you had that shit straight gutter, right? So the tone they bring to each of the songs like balances out perfectly.
Yes,
and you sort of meet in the middle. And Alchemist does a great job of balancing all those tones because he understands sound engineering at another level, right? A lot of producers out here make really dope beats. Alchemist makes an experience. Yes, like when you listen to it, you can sort of like live in that.
And that's what Fetty is, and that's. And one of my issues about most of my favorite albums, period, from 2018 is that all of them are so short. Other than Buddy's album, which is one of my favorite albums of 2018, most of my favorites, outside of hip-hop included, like a Summer Walker's project is one of my favorite, but it was too fucking short. Like, they were too short. I feel the way about Fetty, but I wasn't mad at the shortness of it. Like, I feel like it stayed in the margin that it needs to as far as, like, telling its story, getting what it needs to get accomplished, and, like, doing that. I don't think it was... I would have liked it to be longer. But Fetty, kind of like Tierra Wax, was something that, like, I would play it and it would, like, play through at least 3 times.
Well, with the nature of collab albums, I feel like they should be short.
I agree, too.
Like, the longer they get, the harder it is to maintain the sound. Right, exactly. And the integrity of, like, whatever they're saying just lessens so much, right? Because how many times can you actually get in the booth with an artist, right? Like, how many times can you schedule that and make that happen? And all the work to put in a song, it takes a lot. So I'd rather, like, 7 or 8 really good songs than, like, 15 that are kind of mediocre.
Yeah, because I think, like, once you get into these long projects, and it's just, like, I think if you're a solo artist in general, it's hard to, like, it's hard to step into somebody's world like that. So, like, when you're collabing with another artist, that's what you're doing. Because, like, there might be a beat that you'd be like, damn, I would snap on this jump. And then Currency's got to be like, whoa, would Freddie get on it? You know, or, like, so there has to be that balance. Because you're not always going to be on the type of shit, like, and especially, like, you think about somebody, especially Currency. Like, he has a pocket. Pocket.
Esoteric as
you know what I
hell.
mean? So, like, to step into his world or to be able to compete with him or to be able to make beautiful music with him, you have to meet him at a very particular place. So, like, you can't do that for 20 songs. And, you know, Currency will give you 7 tapes and drop 20 songs on each of them. You know what I mean? But, like, so for him to be in a collaboration situation, I feel like that's so hard to do. So, like, even the fact that they were able to do that well is,
I also
like,
think another reason
just
Freddie,
better, that it's more
quote
concise.
unquote, outshine Currency, even though I don't necessarily feel that way, but a lot of people feel that way. I think the reason is because Currency does do 20-track albums, right? He gets in his pocket and he slowly gets there. He methodically gets there. He's one of the few musicians that, like, really puts into work. And, like, as he puts in work, he gets deeper and deeper into his deeper cuts, and you get happier and happier. So collab albums are only between artists and artists we're considering here. Is it between, like, if you have one producer on an album the entire way
I was about to say...
Is it a collab?
I was about to say, like, yeah, because I was thinking about... Because y'all were like, well, what's your favorite collab? Well, you know, if we have to be honest, I'm going to cheat. And... Go ahead. I would say mine is Metro's project, but I don't know if we're counting that as a collab.
That is a collab
because he's only, and especially when you even like with the features he used like the same 4 niggas the whole project. So when I think of my favorite, no, for facts, but like I fuck with that because I would rather, and I think of like even just like a production album done really well, like where producers headlining, be like
him and Swizz had really good albums.
And even Swizz was somebody I like.
Echo
I
itself
only
is an
listened
amazing
to
song.
it because somebody was like, I kept hearing like, oh, Swizz's album is pretty good, and I was like, y'all playing, I'm good. You know, like, oh, we're good, love. And then I went to go listen, and I was like, okay, and it actually was really cool, and it was really timely, and I thought like even the artists he picked on there were great.
They stayed in their pockets.
He kind of exactly. He did like what each one of those artists were really good at. you know. But then I think, but like the reason I like Metro's album is because he was able to make multiple tracks with those same artists. Like you hear 21 come on, you know, obviously, and that shit was just like fire when he's whispering, but then he comes back and you got 10 Freaky Girls, and that's just a whole different vibe, but also like lit. And then you got Sway Lee on a couple of those joints, and he's just in his lane.
They had kind of disappointing albums individually.
Oh, Ray Shrimmer?
Yeah. I don't know if I like really enjoyed any of those.
I didn't.
It was very forgettable.
My thing is,
I think there's a lot of throwaway tracks.
Well, I think it's hard when you get to like what did they end up having between their joint album and their individual. I think it ends up being like 28, somewhere between like 28 to 30 tracks or something. So I think in general it's just hard to like listen to the same voices that long.
But I wish they had taken their time and done their own albums as their own albums, right?
Yes.
Because that was the thing. Like I didn't feel like they had cohesive projects at all.
They didn't. No, because they're but so for me, I kind of look at that differently. And I liked it being packaged the way it was only because a lot of me, and I've been listening to them.
Did you like the branding of it or did you like it?
No. I liked it.
Because the branding of it was really dope.
I liked it, but I'll tell you why I liked it. Because I've been listening to them since they came out. Like, since which is a song, like, a lot of people have probably never even heard.
Shout-outs to parties and parking lots. And
yeah, like, a really, really old. Their very first single with Mike Will was the song called We. And it has a yellow cover. Look that joint up. Song cranks. But it's like... Yes. And... So, if you listen to them from there, and then I feel like you think of all of their commercial songs and everybody, Sway Lee is, like, clearly the more outgoing nigga. You know, like, Slim Jimmy's just kind of in the cut. That's just their personalities. But so I feel like a lot of people are automatically like, what the fuck does Slim Jimmy do? Like, he don't be contributing nothing. That nigga just be there.
Which is a lie.
And then,
like,
exactly,
a
which is a lie.
lie.
And so I liked how their album was packaged because people could get to Slim Jimmy's part and see... Oh, and you think of their actual, like, big radio hits for the most part, and a lot of that is more so Slim's influence than Sway's influence.
No, I'm with you 100% on all of that. I just didn't think the music
You just didn't
great.
like the way it was packaged.
Yeah, like, no, the packaging was good.
You didn't like that they were all together and that you felt like it was rich.
That's the thing, the packaging was good. Yeah. Like, the branding, the aesthetic of it, the rollout, I loved all that shit. The music itself wasn't that strong because what songs am I still playing from either their solo albums?
No, and I think that's fair, but I just think, like, at the end of the day, what fucking music were you going to be playing from them anyway? Like, you know what I mean? When I think of Ray Shrimmer,
I don't know. Their turn-up music lasts a while.
Yes. Yeah,
especially as you go to white spaces, like it lasts for years.
Did you want deep cuts? Like, what were you know what I mean? Like, I don't know what they could have given me that would have made me feel more fulfilled. Because even when it comes to like Sway, he had a couple vibes on there, but I don't necessarily feel. Like, I don't feel like I was supposed to.
Just
sit on
something
it
for
longer.
the summer. Just something for the summer.
Yeah,
something I can play on the weekends. That's all. Like, that's really it.
But I think it did that. And I have revisited it and been, like, throwing Brinks truck on or something. Like, bring out the Brinks truck. Like, so I don't know. I like that. That project did what it was supposed to do for me.
All right. Because you said Fetty already, even though that's my collab album of the year, the dark horse that I'll bring up is Black Thought released 2 albums this year.
Yes.
Streams of Consciousness and then Streams of Consciousness 2. Streams of Consciousness 2 he did exclusively with Salam Remy. So that's a producer and an artist. But, like... What I think that in itself is more of a collab than a lot of these collab albums, right? When you take one rapper and one producer and you work together to create a cohesive sound and you work together to create a cohesive album, especially at Black Thought's level, you get magic, which is what this album was. And I feel like a lot of people are going to miss it because it came out pretty recently.
Yeah,
it came out towards the end of the year. And they released one album, earlier this year. But y'all should go listen to this shit. Because what he does... is not only does he tell a story, not only does he like curate a sound and all the buzzwords, he just raps.
Yeah.
Right? Salam Remy gives him the room to rap. A lot of producers these days, they overproduce their artists.
Because the artists aren't rapping.
Well, that's the thing, right? They also don't even have the room to like do that.
Yeah.
Like when they start rapping, it sounds forced, it sounds kind of weird.
Like they're doing too much. I'm trying to hear the beat.
Exactly, because the beat is so good and the beat takes up so much space, right? Your ears only have so much room to process. Your brain can only process so many sounds at once.
Yeah.
And being cognizant of that is the job of a good producer, job of a good collab. And that's what happened in the Salam Remy Black Thought Streams of Consciousness 2. So that's like my dark horse that I know many people haven't listened to, so we can't really talk about it too much. But that's something.
No, yeah. I mean, I think, like, you want to talk, like, you want a good rap album. You want, like, real bars, like, real storytelling. Like, that is easily one of the best albums of this year, but it is one that is getting the least talk. But that's just, I mean, I think
that's the way the game
unfortunately,
goes.
Yeah, I was like, unfortunately, like, that's the state of hip hop. So, like, somebody like Black Thought, like, I'm sure people will listen to this and be like, who the fuck is that? Like, go do your homework.
The guy from
and
Late
even
Show
Salon
whatever,
Remy,
yeah.
like, he's one of the most legendary producers.
Yeah,
like,
I don't know how people don't know him.
OG.
Yeah, that's wild.
Like, do your homework. You know, so, like, that's an album that I feel like if people go do their homework, you'll be very impressed. It's really good. And I feel like it's still even... And I still feel like people that are very entrenched in the current hip-hop game, like, you can still appreciate it. Like, you don't have to be like, oh, just like a person that only listens to lyricists to fuck with that album.
Well, the thing that's interesting is, like, hip-hop has made this weird space for the over 40s, which is kind of dope, right? As it should, as hip-hop getting older. So Black Thought came out with albums. Styles P was obviously on this collab with Davies. He's actually pretty old. I didn't realize how old he was.
Yeah, Styles P for damn sure. But I think it's cool. I think, like,
And
the
Jay's
Davies album,
yeah.
The Beloved is cool because it's, like, kind of like a bridging the gap. Especially when it comes to, like, New York rap. And you
it's
don't
a passing
see
of the torch.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And you don't see a lot of, like, olive branches being extended in New York. Like, a lot of the OG rappers be like, nah, fuck these new kids. Like, 6ix9ine and, like, just ratchet rappers that are coming out of New York that don't, like, have what we would say is that quintessential New York sound.
What's also interesting is you can see the lineage, right? Which I think is dope. Like, you can see where Davies gets his sound, and it's dope to, like... I don't think this ever happened before in hip-hop where... You can see directly, like, yo, I was a big fan of this guy. I'm going to rap with him now.
And now I'm rapping, yeah.
Yeah, and everyone's still dope. It's not like, if you rap with KRS-One now, it's going to sound terrible. Like,
yeah, it's just going to be weird. It's going to be like, oh, you guys didn't have to do that. We didn't need that.
Shout out to KRS-One. But it's interesting now and amazing that, like, you can have artists that have matured into themselves and rap about things that are relevant to them. They're not rapping about, like, being young and whatever.
Yeah.
And they can keep up with the young guys and make albums like this.
And I think that's important because it's like at the end of the day, like, and this is really the first generation that we can really see this with because hip hop is only but so old, So I think it's cool to see like people like Jay and all these other like OGs age up because it creates, like you said, this whole new space of like, oh, there's all these niggas above 40 that are rapping now, and what happens with that? What does that look like?
So
we've never had that.
Another place that happened is Kids See Ghosts, right? Cudi
True.
came from Kanye. And, he got to rap with Kanye on a whole album. Regardless of how you feel about Kanye now, we do know what Ye did before. How did y'all feel about Kids See Ghosts as an album?
As an album, that's hard to say because it's just like, I mean, like we said, like Kanye isn't in the space where he's not the beloved Kanye anymore.
He's not.
So it's hard. But, like, I mean, at the end of the day, Kanye is still a masterful producer. Amazing. He's brilliant. He's a genius. But I think, like...
Musically, for sure.
The problem and, like, my biggest issue with Kids See Ghosts is just, like, I don't want to hear Ye rap. I don't want to hear it. I don't want it. Like, if
that was honestly the biggest problem of the album, right?
Exactly,
the production was great.
That's what I'm saying.
Cudi was fine.
Problem.
But I don't know if I want to hear Ye rap at all in 2019. And not even just because, like, all his wild-ass views. I just don't...
He doesn't have the bars. That's what I'm saying. Like, Kanye doesn't have the ghostwriters he used to have. Like,
fire Consequence.
And at the end of the day, like, that's what I'm saying. Like, at the end of the day, there's a very clear distinction between when Kanye had his writers and when he didn't. And Kanye without his writers is a little bit painful. And so I feel like in 2018, the dopest thing for Kids See Ghosts would have been Kanye just taking the production seats. And he didn't. And that is honestly the biggest pitfall of that album. It wasn't that it was bad.
Like, I still enjoyed it, and I'm still happy it happened, right? For Cudi, at least. Because for Cudi, it's a big deal. And I think that we got to see Cudi in a new space, and that this sort of gives him a new lease where he doesn't have to, like, be a child of Ye anymore. He's done the thing.
Yeah, like, it's kind of, that chapter is closed.
Yes, and chapter is closed.
Yeah, and for that, I do agree with it. And because, like I said, the production was still masterful. And there's, like, you get really good moments. Like, I mean, like, Ghost Town. Like, people are talking about that being, like, one of the best collabs that either one of them have had in a long time.
It's a good song. I mean, that goes back into...
It just rides well, yeah.
It goes right back into the, like, what the whole thing we were talking about earlier with disappointing albums, right? Ye was an extreme disappointment. After all this build-up and hype and all these things that he's done, it was really bad. And on the, like, the not the anti-Kanye. Oh, you liked Ye? Go ahead.
Ye was an interesting experience for me, and I did not dislike it as much as most people did. And I say that because what I really love about Kanye is the way he's always been able to be very present. And his album really, whatever music he's working at the time, exactly, it feels like a snapshot of his life. You can see the eras of him, to the way that he'll fucking change his whole wardrobe. He'll be like, I don't feel like that anymore. And, he'll just be literally a different person. So for 2018 Kanye West, I felt that Ye was very, fitting. It sounded how Kanye feels in his real life, how we see him really acting a fool. So, even stuff like, what did the album cover say? I'm bipolar, it's okay, or whatever, the little, but that is where Kanye is. He's in a bipolar space, and that album reflected that bipolar space that he's in this, controversial space. And I liked Ye a lot more than most people.
But here's my problem, right? I agree with you that Kanye is very representative of who he is, in his music. Mm-hmm. The problem is who he is a mess, and to me, the album sounded like a mess, right?
But to me, that's okay because he is a mess.
But the thing is, as a consumer, I don't want to hear that.
This can be fun if it's genuine. I don't feel like this nigga believes half the shit that he says or even understand half the shit.
I think it's more he doesn't understand. I think he wholeheartedly believes it, but he literally doesn't understand half the shit he says sometimes.
But here's the thing, Lex. If it's a mess, that's fine, right? If depending on who you are. I don't go to Kanye to listen to messes.
No, of course.
Right?
And I think that's the problem because it's I said, I liked it because I felt like it was reflective of the space that he's in. But for Kanye to be the genius and the legend and everything else he is, and everything else he is for the game, exactly, that's inappropriate. That's okay, my guy. That's him not showing up for work.
But even forget all his wild ass Republican takes and everything like that. The music itself, when it sounds like a mess, you have to be a certain kind of person to do that. Future can sound like a mess a lot. You know why? Because Future is always a mess.
Well, yeah, we're not holding Future
to that standard. So it's again about expectations, right? This is the thing I can come back to, albums that disappointed me. It's not so much that this is terrible, this is garbage, you shouldn't have made it. It's more we expected this from you because this is what you built us up to. This is what you presented, this is what you wanted. When Kanye creates that much of a firestorm, when he lights up that much controversy, you expect something to match it.
Yeah.
And this didn't match it.
And to me so when I guess in terms of that disappointment, that kind of feels like the Carter's disappointment. Damn, you guys gave these amazing individual albums and then y'all get together and this is what the fuck you gave us?
It's like when someone's gonna fight, right? So I'm a fighter, right? And people talk shit all the time. And they get in the ring and there's nothing there. And not only are you disappointed because you're beating the shit out of somebody, but you're disappointed because you were looking forward to a good fight.
Yeah, exactly.
You were looking forward to
actual,
something happening. Yeah. You were looking forward to working through it. You were looking forward to being with that music and enjoying it. Mm-hmm. And so as a fan, especially with Kanye, we've been with him most of our lives, right?
Yeah.
6th grade, he comes out and we're like, damn, this is amazing. And we go from there. It really wasn't.
It's a sad trajectory.
Yeah.
If you're a fan of Kanye, all of us are, we grew up off of Kanye. I always cite College Dropout as the moment I fell in love with hip-hop. And I will always say that. It's my favorite album in the entire world. The whole entire world. It is the most beautiful thing to me ever. It is. That is the moment I fell in love with hip-hop. I remember where I bought that album. I have that album is sitting on my desk in my room right now.
All Falls Down is the number one song for me ever. 100%. That song I said to myself over and over and over and over and over again.
But even when I go back to College Dropout, and this is the only reason why I don't hate Ye as much, is because Kanye told us. Kanye told us he was going to marry the white girl. He told us he was an egomaniac. He told us everything on College Dropout.
Just because I tell you I'm going to hit you in the face doesn't mean okay if I can hit you in the face.
But you can't say I didn't tell you. But you can't say I didn't tell you. And I kind of feel like that's like Kanye. He's like, I told y'all niggas I was a hot mess. I told you I was going to blow up and forget everything that I came from. And you guys are surprised, And so I kind of feel like that's Kanye. Because he's just I told you guys I was a train wreck.
There's going to be a surprise and being hurt.
Yeah, right? No, and that's fair. Because
you can see the hurt coming and still be hurt. Yeah. Right? I don't know. So,
and I'm sure Hitler told niggas he was about to be Hitler before that nigga was Hitler. That don't mean
no. Of course, it doesn't excuse. It doesn't give you any sort of excuse, or it doesn't exempt you from being judged or being critiqued. It doesn't. But
I wish Kanye had taken a break from rapping, right, and just produced the albums. Well, no, yeah, you're right. He definitely did. Because I don't know what the hell he was doing.
Because he was doing Yeezy and everything else. He took a break. It just.
Also, the 7-track thing was lazy by him.
It's not that he didn't take the break. It was lazy on his part. It's the space that he decided to come back in. With all these antics surrounding him and him just doing so much other shit, it just seems like it wasn't that he didn't take a break, but it wasn't like the break should have been longer.
No, it legitimately seems like he didn't work that hard on this album. No, I'm 100% serious.
Oh, and I agree with that too.
Like, he did
I do
not
think
work that
Kanye
hard.
was just like, I want to make music again.
Yeah. Like,
And
it was
he
100% lazy. Like, the fact that he took the album cover as he's, like, driving to the release party or something, that's the story, how it goes or something of that nature. Like, come on, yo. You were lazy on your own album. You wrote very little. You didn't give a fuck. You didn't have your writers. You made great beats, and you made great beats for Pusha, and you made great beats for a bunch of other dudes, but not for yourself.
I would argue that's him just being like, I'm Kanye West and I don't have to try. You know, and I think, unfortunately, that's the space he reached where he was like, I'm so great that I don't have to try. But now we see what it looks like when he doesn't try and where it's unsatisfying.
Now, on the exact opposite end, you were also disappointed by Scorpion.
Yes.
And Drake tried really, really hard, right? Where Kanye didn't try.
At all.
I think Drake tried way too hard. Like, he had, 50 songs almost? Like, he tried to do everything on one album, all for the streams. It's interesting, right? Because they have their little rivalry, whatever. They did the exact opposite things.
Yeah.
And they both ended up with relatively disappointing albums.
Very true. But I think, like, for Drake, I would argue it wasn't... Like, the streams are definitely a big part of it just because of how long it was. But also, I would argue, like, Drake really thought this was, like, the album for his legacy. You know, because we talk about, like...
Until he got pressed.
Yeah.
That's the thing. Like, if he hadn't gotten pressed, I feel like this album would have been shorter. There were some songs that were definitely made, you know, right after Pusha, you know, pressed them out. But the other thing that Drake did that's really disappointing is there's some gems on there. There's Sandra's Rose, right? Which is a gem. Like, In My Feelings is a great song. I don't care what anyone says. to argue against that song is to argue against the entire year, right? Like, there's some gems on there. There's some old Drake. There's some flashes of Drake that we really like. And then he's surrounded with all this filler. And that's what brought the stuff down. Like, but why did you like it? You say you didn't like it at all.
It just didn't. When I think of my favorite Drake, so I like very like introspective Drake. And when you get to the R&B side of the project, it was so lackluster to me. So like it's not I like prefer Drake rapping, but rapping on his like, you know, let me tell you about my moms. Let me tell you about how I grew up in Canada.
Rose, right?
Sandra's Rose, exactly. But when you get to like something like Sandra's Rose, it's cool, it hits, but it's buried so deep in there that
it's the B-side.
And the B-side in general was just like super underwhelming. I think the rap side more or less did a lot of the job it needed to do, but the R&B songs and that whole side didn't do it. It didn't do it. Like, I don't know anybody that was like, no, but this B-side cranks. Like, no. It was like the A-side, that shit slap. Or, you know, you were at least like, this cool. You get to the B-side and it's just like, crickets.
I don't like either side.
But like we said, it's all a function of expectation when it comes to albums like this, right? Drake, again, we expect classics from him now. We expect amazing work from him now. He's at the top of the game. We expect everything to hit, everything to be pivotal. And sometimes you're not going to get that.
I don't even expect everything to hit anymore. I think Drake was an artist that was really praised for having like really cohesive conceptual rap albums.
And you think this is where that fell flat?
Yeah.
There is no concept. Yeah. I would argue that.
No, that's true. I don't know what Scorpion is.
Yeah, when it comes to the conceptual side, yeah, it totally falls flat in that arena. And because one side of the album severely performs, like, it underperforms. Like, the B-side underperforms. Like, I don't care what you say. You didn't even have to love all of the A-side. And I didn't love all of the A-side.
I did not.
But it just does so much more than the B-side that it's just like, what debate are we really even putting this in? And you even think, like, Grammy noms just dropped. And it got a lot of noms.
He got a lot of noms?
He got noms.
I didn't see him yet.
He's Drake. He's
Drake, exactly. But it's like...
Just off of play value, off streams, off... He's who niggas are listening to. The niggas that really pay attention and vote for these Grammy.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, like,
I don't know who those people
Drake
are,
could sell water to the ocean. Like, he's that big. And so I feel like Scorpion is a huge demonstration in that arena of like, I'm so big, it doesn't matter what the fuck I make.
He's gotten away with just being the megastar, right?
Yeah.
And that's kind of where that falls flat. But I mean, overall, there's been a lot of like really good albums. I think the albums we talked about today were disappointing again because of expectation, right? Yeah. We were built up to something and we weren't delivered. But it's really about the artist progression. If you're not going upwards, it's really hard to like be with it. Like, we don't really allow a lot of room for artists to take steps back, which is unfortunate, but that's kind of the way it goes as, you know, consumers of music.
Well, I think that's part of like why things end up being disappointing is because like we look at artists and we think they're supposed to have this linear progression. And that's not really fair because art is not a linear thing.
Yeah, it's not fair at all. But I mean, that's part of the game and that's part of like, how you just consume music, right?
Especially in this culture where it's consumed
rapidly. Exactly.
Consume, forget.
Yeah, and I think exactly. So I think like in general that it's hard to judge a lot of the projects this year just because there were so many. So to wrap it up and just be like, these are our favorites, these were the worst, that's a hard thing to do because there's so much to take into consideration.
And that's why we're doing it.
All right. Well, we need to come up with a cool way to sign off for the podcast. But something that you kind of inspired me around that I think would be cool is just throwing out a hot take. It could be a hot take that references
like the next
what
episode?
we talked about, the next episode, or just in general, like a hip-hop hot take.
And on this note...
One hip-hop hot take.
Dang. What is a good hot take?
There's so many hot takes, but like...
Was What's Beef really the best verse of the year?
No. It was one of the top 5, though.
What else are you putting up there?
What else am I putting up with the verses?
Yeah.
That'll be for next episode.
That's fair.
I think Saba Prom King was the song of the year, and I think it's underappreciated, and I think people don't pay enough attention to when Black people talk about depression, and that's the reason that it's underappreciated.
I would just argue Saba's underappreciated, and therefore the album was underappreciated. But I do think, like Saba, that was a very beautiful album. And when you like, I can't really think of any mainstream albums that literally, like, he's mourning on that album.
Completely.
You know? And so I think that's like, the vulnerability of that space is amazing.
The thing is, Saba's he's pretty big now. Like, he did his Tiny Desk, he gets around, right? It should be much more highlighted than it is. Bria, what's your hot take?
My hot take is, which some people have said and agreed to, but Eminem is not the best white rapper. I think as far cohesively, Mac Miller is the best white rapper. But if we're talking about lyricism, action, Bronson is the best white rapper. Anybody else's take is bullshit. That's how I feel.
I ain't heard nothing out of Bronson in a minute. So
He just dropped.
What do you play?
And I heard it was okay.
It was cool.
I was told to revisit it. Like, I was told by multiple people to go back and revisit it, so I'm going to.
And I missed that.
Yeah, I mean, I think... Yeah, the M thing is interesting, and I have my own thoughts on that. But overall, I agree with that hot take as well.
We have 2 guests in the studio. I wanted to shout them out for being here and listening to our first episode. So, Destiny and Al, do you guys either of you have a hip-hop hot take?
Speak up.
Yeah, I do. Definitely. Oh, how close do I gotta get to me?
You're good.
Okay, perfect. People need to start putting respect on Dom Kennedy names. I'm gonna screen that. We talking about hot takes.
Cut his mic.
I'm gonna screen that from the top of the mountain. Listen, for whatever reason, whenever you hear a Dom song and it's not the Yellow album, people automatically get turned off. But if you really listen to what he's saying some like player ass shit. So, volume 2. Y'all go listen to that right now.
Nah, let me tell you about
I ain't never been a Dom Kennedy fan before.
Let me tell you about this guy, Al. Al said, come to the Dom show. It'll be fun. And then this man left early.
Oh, wow. Yikes.
And I was at the Dom show, still there.
In my defense, I had a situation. In my defense, Dom, you might...
That's why you're a Dom Kennedy fan.
That's how much of a stand he is. He left early.
A Dom Kennedy stand would have a situation. But go ahead.
Exactly.
That's why Dom is
sketchy.
Yeah.
Destiny, what's your hip-hop hot take if you have one?
Sure, my hip-hop hot, not even close enough. My hip-hop hot take is Kanye West doesn't care about Black people, and that's sad.
Ooh, yikes.
That's about it.
That's about
Yeah.
it.
That's about it.
I'll just leave it
Drops mic.
nicely at that.
These expensive mics don't drop.